B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natziach. Since last night was Rosh Chodesh, today's the second day of Nisan. We're going to go into the laws of Passover. Today's shiur is based on Yechabedad, volume number 2, Teshuvah 60. One of the most common questions I get, especially in our congregation in Santa Monica, it's a lot of older people. A lot of people ask is, what's the status regarding their medicine? Pills, tablets, vitamins, herbal medicines. Does that need to be kosher for Passover? We know. On Pesach, chametz is one of the unique things that not only are we not allowed to eat it, we're not allowed to derive benefit from it. You understand? So, one disclaimer I want to give is this whole shiur, as you were going to see from the Rambam right now, is only talking about medicines that are for sick people that their life is not in danger. For sure, if your life is in danger, if you don't take these medicines, and there's no other medicine, for sure you're allowed to take it on Passover, because there's only 3 sins that you need to sacrifice and put your life in danger. Idol worship, to murder somebody, somebody innocent, and sexual, like sleeping with a married woman. And chametz isn't one of those. So if a person's life is in danger, of course he's allowed to eat non-kosher, he's allowed to eat chametz. Of course he should try to find the kosher version, the most least haram, the least, unkosher version of it. But we're not even talking about that. Today's teshuvah is a person's sick, he needs antibiotics, whatever, even if he doesn't take it, his life is not going to be in danger. Like a pain medication, does that need to be kosher for Passover or not? So let's start the shiur. The Rambam in chapter 5 of Hilchot Yesodei Torah, halacha 8 says, like I mentioned before, Kol ha'isurim shebetorah ein miparim behem ela b'makom sakana. Anything that's forbidden in the Torah, anything that's not kosher or forbidden in the Torah, you can't use it for a health and medicinal uses, only if your life is in danger, right? If your life is in danger, you have to do everything, right? Like I said, you're only not allowed to do the 3 cardinal sins. And he says, where does this apply? When you eat it in a normal way, right? So you're not allowed to have shrimp or milk and meat or chametz only if there's no other food and you're going to die, because you're eating it in a normal cooked way. Like we feed a sick person non-kosher meat, nevela v'trefa, or chametz on Pesach, or we feed him on Yom Kippur. You're only allowed to do that if you don't feed the guy the non-kosher food, he's going to die, right?
He's going to starve to death.
Yeah. Because he's having a medical episode or there's no food, whatever. But shelo kederech hanatam. But if you have it in an abnormal way, like swallowing a pill is an abnormal way. Do you eat your food by swallowing it? Or you chew it first?
You chew it first.
Yeah, so we're going to see very soon that there's a big heter for pills and tablets that you swallow and they don't have any taste because they're already not really considered food and you're not eating them in a normal way. For example, let's say you want to use chametz, for example, to put it on a band-aid to stop bleeding or to stop an infection. Or you know that the first 3 years, did you know this? The first 3 years you plant, a lot of people don't know this, unfortunately. Even in LA, Baltimore, wherever, outside of Israel, if you plant a new fruit tree, the first 3 years you're not allowed to have the fruit. You're not allowed to benefit from the fruit.
The first 3 years that the tree starts to give fruit?
Yeah, it's called orla. A lot of people don't know that.
What is the reason?
Because I think the first 3 years...
that applies to Eretz Israel.
It could... No, it even applies outside Israel. No, the reason I think is because we want to let the fruit tree get strong,
strength.
or we have to give it to God. It's like self-control. And that's why a lot of times why they don't cut the hair of the kid for 3 years, because he's like a person's like a tree, so they just let it grow. Then after the 4th year, it's neta rabbi. So let's say you want to use fruit juice from a first year of the fruit of the tree, or anything else forbidden beverages. If, for example, inside the juice there's some gasoline or something very bitter, like let's say it's not life-threatening for drinking. Give me an example of something that makes it very bitter. Let's say you put a chemical, right, that makes this juice totally disgusting. There's no pleasure in drinking it anymore, right? Like vinegar.
Vinegar, exactly, yeah.
So he says, or mashke davar mar she'en derech hanatam, there's no more pleasure anymore. Hareze mutar, then it's mutar to use something forbidden. You understand? Because once it's in a vinegar-like state,
once the pleasure's been removed,
there's no. The only even if there's no danger to your life, you're allowed to do this for medicinal reasons. The only exception to this is gushti masti. Because remember I said the milk and meat, you're not allowed to have pleasure from it either. It's not only eating.
I have a question about milk and meat.
Ask me. And also kliyaya kerem, what's also very forbidden is God doesn't like us to, if you learn Mishnayos, it's very, very bad thing for us to plant. We're not allowed to do kilayim. How do you say kilayim in English? Grafting. Like exactly, like grafting 2 different types of trees. The worst possible one is putting grapes with wheat.
Grapes with wheat? Then what kind of tree is going to come on?
I don't know. Whatever.
I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's called sha'asurim afilu shelo kederech. These 2 things, even if you don't have pleasure from it, even though it's not the normal way of pleasure, it's also, the Rambam says. Lefichach en mitpat behem elo b'makom sakana. Those you're only allowed to have benefit from if there's a danger to the guy's life, right? So when there's a danger to the guy's life, everything is okay, unless the first 3 things. Now, so Rav Ovadia makes a very important note. He says, listen, when you swallow a pill, that's exactly like the Rambam says. It's an abnormal way. There's no good taste. A lot of the times, sometimes you don't have water right away. Have you kept the pill in your mouth? It's very bitter.
Very bitter.
It has very bad taste.
Very bad.
So he says, we can allow it even for a sick person that's not, his life is in danger. So therefore, because again, to repeat, there's no taste, and the taste is actually pretty nasty, it's okay for it to have on Passover. Should be no problem.
Because you
don't ask me a question. No, it should be forbidden, because the Gemara in Pesachim says a person should not take a piece of like bread and use it as a bandage on Pesach, like before Pesach, and then you keep it on during Pesach to use as a type of antibiotic or ointment or moisturizer to put on your wound, put on your skin as it's bloody or woundy or whatever. He says, he says, even though that's not the normal way of having pleasure from it because you're not eating it, he says that the problem with that is because if it's edible chametz and you're putting it on your skin, you should be burning it before. You should be getting rid of it. You have to do hagala, you have to do biur chametz before. Right? Before 11 o'clock, the 5th hour on Passover. So that's why you're not allowed to have pleasure for it. But this other type of pills, the issue over there is, since it became so sour and bitter, it doesn't even have a name of chametz on it anymore. And the Rambam says that. It says, it's a mefurish halacha. Let's say you have a piece of bread that became so rotten and moldy that even a dog would not eat it. The Rambam says this in chapter 4 of Hilchot Chametz Umatzah. Or he says, let's say, "Velugma shenisrecha inu sarich biur." Do you need to throw that and burn it with the rest of your chametz? Such a moldy piece of bread that even a dog wouldn't look at it?
No, it's like already it's been destroyed.
Exactly. It's been like it's destroyed. And the Shulchan Aruch also paskins like this. The Rav Amagid also says, based on the Tosefta, that something is only considered chametz is that if you would throw it in front of a dog, the dog would eat it as scraps. You know how a lot of times people give their leftovers to dogs? But if something is so nasty that even a dog wouldn't look at it, it's not considered chametz. It's considered garbage. So even though there happens to be a ravid. Now, just like Rashi and Tosfos always argue, the Rambam has an antagonist called the Ravad. The Ravid says that you say that if chametz becomes like garbage, he says zed dafka shenisracha v'lesof hichmitza. That's if from the beginning it became ruined because like vinegar fell on it. Then it became. Let's say you put vinegar on a piece of germinated wheat, and then yeast, and it flipped up. But the Ravid holds, based on the Yerushalmi, that if there at a certain time the bread was a normal, juicy
piece of bread,
fluffy. Well, juicy is more of a steak, but it was a fluffy, good solid piece of toast or bread. And then it became, he says, that you still have to get rid of. It says the Rambam argues on that, and the halacha is not like the Ravid. So the Rav Avadia argues, it says, Nira shesoiver Rabbeinu shediver Yerushalmi shenisrecha b'Pesach atzmo. That's only if at the beginning of Pesach it was normal, then it went bad. You understand? That's how the Rambam learns that Yerushalmi. That's why, because again, if something at the beginning, this is the idea. If at midday, 11 a.m. around, the 5th hour of the Eve of Pesach, it was still not rot. Erev Pesach, it was still normal. Right? So what should you have done to it? Either sold it or burnt it. Right? You can't own it. So if at the beginning of the 11th hour when you're coming, because Pesach, even on a Torah law, is very interesting. What do we do? It was actually, a lot of people don't know this. I was just doing research for this year. What's the busiest day in Judaism? What is the busiest day for a Jew?
Erev Yom Kippur.
No, Erev Pesach. Especially, no, because in the time of the Bet HaMikdash, you also have to go to the Bet HaMikdash and bring the Korban Pesach. So Pesach, even from nowadays, outside Israel, we keep it for 8 days. But even in the time of the Torah law, already Eve of Pesach, we can't eat chametz from the 11 a.m., right? From the 5th hour. So he's saying that if already something was a normal piece of fluffy, tasty chametz, then like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, it got ruined because some like gasoline fell on it. That still needs biur. You understand? Because when you got into the Eve of Pesach, it was normal. But anything that at the get-go of Pesach was unedible, that a dog would even eat it, it's totally okay. Now, this is a Mefursha Gemara, by the way. The Gemara in Pesachim, what does the Gemara say when it wants to explain this type of chametz? It's the Gemara on Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. It says charcho. Let's say you had a piece of bread. You know how sometimes you leave something in the toaster, it becomes so black by mistake, you put it on too. Exactly. If a piece of toast, if a piece of bread becomes so burnt and black that both it doesn't look like bread anymore and it doesn't taste like bread anymore, that's called burning it to a crisp. Exactly. It becomes like what does the Gemara say? It says if before 11 a.m., the 5th hour of Erev Pesach, the Eve of Pesach, the chametz had become burnt, that it doesn't have the taste or look of chametz anymore, it's considered like something that's unedible, and a dog wouldn't eat it. And v'kaimalan, that it's okay to have pleasure from such a thing, right? Because it's not under the category of chametz anymore. You understand? And you're even allowed to have pleasure from this on Pesach. ולכן אפילו החמצה מקודם אין צריך לבאר וכדין הפת שלפני זה. So these two things are in the same category. Either a piece of bread before the 11th hour becomes so rotten and moldy that even a dog would not eat it, or it becomes so burnt and disgustingly that it doesn't look like bread anymore, it doesn't taste like bread anymore. These halachically are in the same category, and you're allowed to have pleasure from it. You don't need to burn it on the eve of Pesach. So he says, and this is what all the poskim hold. The Ran holds like this. One of the major mefarshim on the Pesachim, have you learned Pesachim? One of the major Rishonim. The Maharam Chalava. I love that name. When we were learning Pesachim in second year base Medrash in Israel, the Maharam Chalava is a very good Rishon. He explains the Gemara very good, like Tosfos. So the Maharam Chalava holds like that. The Sefer HaMichtam holds like that. The Sefer HaMashlim, the Ritva, the Meiri, the Noda Yehuda, and even the later poskim. The chief posek that the whole world was leaning on him in Europe before the war. Rav Chaim Oizer says that's why modern drugs. Have you ever cut a pill open? It's bitter. It's not. Even if you crush it up and put it in front of your dog's not going to eat it. That's why, according to this rationale, it's okay to swallow the pills on Passover, even if it's not your. For sure, if your life is in danger, if you have to take the pills for a life-threatening illness, but even if not, just you're in pain, it's also okay. Now we hit a little bump in the road, though. One of the great rabbis of Spain, his name was he was the prince of all the Jews. He was the head of the Jewish Federation of all the Jews of Spain, and he was a great rabbi.
How many years ago Jews were in Spain? Inquisition happened how many years ago?
500.
500 years ago.
Yeah, 600 years ago. In 1492. So, one of the rabbis of the golden age of the Spanish Jews, his name was the Rabbi Yehuda Barzilai. So he says a tremendous chidush. He says, "Shafilu chametz kodem zman, zmano shemutar ba'ana la'achar zmano." He says those two types of chametz that we talked about, the one that's moldy and a dog is not going to eat it, and even if it's burnt to a crisp, that it doesn't look like bread anymore, it doesn't taste like a bread, right? And it was already rotten before the 11th hour, right? Because do you know, by the way, this halacha? Teruni Jews get it all wrong. It's called chametz shavar alav Pesach. Any chametz that's not sold or gotten rid of before Pesach and you keep it in your garage, after Pesach you're not allowed to have benefit from it.
Even if it's still in Pesach.
Right. No, let's say somebody... No, unfortunately in Tehran, there was ignorance was bliss. So a lot of times what they would do, they didn't know the halacha.
Okay.
So what they would do, instead of selling their chametz and burning it, they would just take it outside their house, put it in their garage, then after Pesach come use it. They would still own it. Yeah, so when does chametz become aser bahana and considered chametz shalav Pesach? That golden time is from Torah law even. Is the time that you start getting the Korban Pesach ready, which is the 5th hour, like around 11:30 a.m., depending on your locality, municipality. So the Ribar Zilai has a tremendous chidush, and the Shulchan Aruch passes like this. He says, even though that chametz, that a dog is not going to eat or is burnt, you're still not allowed to eat it. Why? Because why are you eating it? If it's such a disgusting thing, why are you consuming it? By you consuming it, you're giving it chashivut. So, okay, you want to use it to, for example, in olden times, such things, they would make it into like a soap, or you want to use it as some type of cleaner, fine. But to actually consume of it, it's achshaveh. Rabbeinu Yerucham and the Trumas Hadeshen, They hold, even the Rambam agrees to this. Even though there's many Rishonim that argue on this, the Baal HaMaor and the Ran, they hold that once it becomes so disgusting and moldy or burnt to a crisp, it's like clay. It's like the earth.
It's like ash.
So you're allowed to eat it. For whatever reason you're eating it. The Meiri and the Maharam Chalava hold like that. And the Rashbitz, many Rishonim hold like that. However, the Shulchan Aruch is Machmir. So now there becomes a problem. Maybe inside of your pill, it's chametz. You're right. It is like burnt. So why are we allowed to have medicine during Passover? Because you understand? In this machlokes, the Baal HaMaor and the Rosh, the Shulchan Aruch is machmir like one of the Amodei Hara, like the Rosh. So perhaps it should be forbidden, because maybe, even though it's like dust, but by you swallowing it, you're making it important. You're giving it value. So he says no. The reason it's okay is one of the great rabbis of Italy already argued this. He was one of the first poskim to deal with a lot of modern science. His name was Rabbi Shmuel HaKohen HaGadol, they would call him. The Zera Emet. The Zera Emet and other poskim say it is okay to have medicine. You know why? Even though we paskin like the Ribar Zilai. He says because these medicines, it's not 100% burnt chametz. There's a lot of different chemicals in there. One of them may be something, a derivative of chametz that's like a, right? It's taruvas chametz. It's not chametz gamur. That the Rosh was machmir and the Ribar Zilai were machmir. So he says, since, first of all, and there's a second reason to be mechel. You're not eating it in a normal way. You're swallowing it. So again, the reason why we're allowed to have these medicines is, for a second, it was frightening, right? It was a monkey wrench there. But actually, it's still okay. Why? Chazon Ish also says this, and I'll read you for the Chazon Ish. He says, first of all, only one of the ingredients may be derived from wheat, and it's poison. It's not poisonous. It's already in it. It's bitter, right? So it doesn't before. Yeah, before Paseach, it already was like the earth of the ground. So it's not noticeable as chametz anymore.
If a vitamin is those.
Oh, so we're going to get to vitamin in a second.
No, if you put under your tongue.
Yeah.
Is that chametz?
Yeah, that's a problem. Vitamin is a problem. We're going to get to that in the end.
Okay, but if it's.
Because if you don't take the vitamin, 99% of the time your life is not in danger. You understand? So all vitamins, we're going to mention this at the end of the shira. Thank you for bringing it up. Vitamins, you're right. If you put it under your tongue and it's sour, it's talch, it's like bitter, it's still allowed.
No smelling, just something you can put it there and then something like eating.
Yeah.
Like eating too.
Yeah. I'm gonna address that.
Is it because you're deriving?
Yeah. So we're gonna get there actually in like 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, if you I'm gonna go into that whole sugya of vitamin and thing. But let's read what the Chazon Ish says about modern medicine, the pills. Right now we're talking about pills. He says, first of all, and I'll read for you verbatim. He says, pills and tablets that have no taste, right? And by the way, what we're talking about here is not like Tums. Tums, again, or like lactate pills. One of the most common things that needs to be kosher for Passover is like Baruch Hashem, 98% of them happen to be kosher for Passover. At worst of the worst, they're kidniot. But like things that are flavored cough syrup or Tums or chewable tablets, those need to be kosher for Passover. Here we're talking
for stomach acid.
Yeah, that needs to be. If it tastes good
under the tongue and it melts, it tastes like a strawberry.
Yeah, that needs to be kosher for Passover.
Oh, okay.
Right now we're talking about strictly pills and stuff you swallow. And the Chazon Ish says, why is it okay? even if you may say one of the ingredients may be some chemical that's derived
from some chametz or something.
From chametz, since it's not, people wouldn't eat it raw, and even a dog wouldn't eat it. It's bitter. It doesn't have the sin of chametz, and also you can't even. It's all like a mixture, right? There's like, it's like a chemistry. It's not only that. There's like types of aluminum in there, types of different binders and different things in there. It's not pure. No, I can guarantee you, no medicine in the world, prescription medicine or Tylenol or these things is pure chametz. Even, right? There's many different chemicals and derivatives. So since it's mixed with other things, and secondly, like we said 1,000 times, it's bitter. It's not even really the name of chametz anymore. It's like a dog wouldn't eat it, and you're not even chewing it. You're swallowing it. For health, you're allowed to have these. So he says, even if you want to be machmir, like the achronim and the rosh, that says, don't eat anything, that's only if it's purely chametz. But once it's mixed with other things, the Chazon Ish says it's okay. And the Chazon Ish was a great machmir. That's why basically all pills are okay. Tylenol, like any pill that you drink.
Non-flavored pill.
Yeah, any non-flavored pill or tablet that you swallow is okay. But like we said before, we mentioned a minute ago, if it actually tastes good, it has a flavoring.
It has to be kosher for Pesach.
Then that already is not part of this. You need to, Baruch Hashem, online, you go to stark.org, ou.org, you ask me, your local rabbi, Baruch Hashem, Rabbi Bess, which is a great leader, Paseach of our city, he actually is the international expert. Every year for the last 30, maybe 50 years, 45 years, he's researched it to see what's going on. There's also one more interesting thing. One of the poskim, I don't know who wrote this sefer, but the sefer Sharei De'ah writes that if during Pesach you want to go buy medicine, like one of these tablets, for somebody that's not in danger, right? So again, for the 1,000th time, because on Yom Kippur, people don't listen to me, these old ladies. Jews are very stubborn. Some ladies, they ask me, Rabbi, should I fast or not fast on Yom Kippur? So after I said, what did your doctor say? The doctor said, if I fast, my life is in danger. I said, the halacha is, of course you shouldn't fast. Still, they're stubborn.
Shouldn't fast, it means that they can do everything Yom Kippur, they can eat anything.
No.
Or just to take the medicine and water.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. We give them the halacha 5-10 minute rule.
Oh, okay.
But what I'm trying to say is some people, they were extremely, extremely fervent and obsessed about.
What does fervent mean?
About not having chametz. Don't think it's a mitzvah. It's if here halachically, even the Chazon Ish, Rav Avadia, all the poskim say a tablet that doesn't taste, you should take your medicine. You don't want to potentially put your life in risk, even if your life is not at risk, and you're just taking it because your whole body is. If you're going to be highly uncomfortable, then even then it's okay. Now this posek says that if you are going to buy medicine Shabbat, it's better to buy it from a non-Jewish retailer. Why? Because by the goy, it's like considered that it was unedible from before Pesach. You understand? Even if you're buying it on Pesach. So that's what the great Gaon from Levuv said. That. So bottom line, to summarize our class, it is totally permissible for anybody that's sick to eat his pills, his prescription medicines that don't have any taste, that you swallow. You for sure have to have it, even though perhaps one of the ingredients may be from unedible and bitter chametz. As long as it's not flavored. right? It's not like a tablet. Like a prime example of this is people that are lactose intolerant. They have to perhaps get the pills and swallow the pills of lactose, not the chewable tablets, because the chewable tablets have chametz in them and they taste good. Right? A lot of things, by definition, the guy's not going to want to make you suffer. The manufacturer of the pharmaceutical, if it's something chewable, it's usually going to taste good. Right? But Rav Ovadia throws a very interesting monkey wrench in here, which caused me to do tshuva, and it brought me back to my sugya that, shout out to my dear friend, Dr. Chakshur, that we learned the sugya together. He says something very interesting. Yeah, we learned the laws of Shabbat about, that's a whole sugya on Shabbat. When are you allowed to desecrate Shabbat for a sick person? Now, Rav Ovadia says something very interesting here. He says, everything I told you till now was only for a person that's a chole kol gufo, which means the definition of a chole kol gufo is a person who's generally not allowed to take medicine on Shabbos. You're not allowed to take medicine on Shabbos for only an ailment, for inconvenience. However, a sick person is allowed to take medicine on Shabbos. So, this includes somebody who feels sick enough that he needs to stay in bed, like he can't go to shul. Or someone whose whole body hurts and is weak. Or someone who is unable to function normally. He becomes dysfunctional by not taking that medicine due to his sickness. A person who does not feel that sick should not take medicine or hay fever. So here they're asking Rav Heinemann, one of the great poskim of our generation, are you allowed to take hay fever, allergy medicine on Shabbat? So he said, listen, if you become dysfunctional, that your whole body gets sick. So same thing by here. All these pills that you're taking on Pesach is assuming that if you don't take them, it's going to be not a minor inconvenience, a major inconvenience. Right? Like let's say a person, give you some, like a person has migraine headaches, he needs to take it. Or if a person has a flu, or if a person is in such bad body pain that he's going to be home stricken and he can't leave the house and go to shul and daven. So all of that is chole kol gufo. But let's say this medicine is just to make you, is a vitamin. Your question. From here we learn something very important, which I take a lot of vitamins and minerals. Your vitamins and minerals need to be kosher for Passover. So there's many different, from New York, there's many different Jewish companies like Frida and Blue Burnett that they make strictly kosher for Pesach thing. Or you could ask like the head of Star K, Rabbi Golfes, Star K Est, Sephardic Star K, people that are experts in chemicals. They could also, Rabbi Golfes or Rabbi Haber from Baltimore, or Rabbi Bess from here. There's certain rabbis that are such halachic experts, or like Rabbi Haber is one of the biggest experts in the world, that they know each chemical that's in a pill. So if they tell you, hey, we see all the ingredients in this vitamin, we know none of it is derived from anything that's chametz, then you're allowed to. But, so, any medicine you're taking just for a minor discomfort, or a prime example that is a herbal or vitamin or mineral, you're not allowed to just take that on Passover. That you have to check to make sure that it's what? Kosher for Pesach. May everybody, when also, let's not forget the ethical lesson. May we all be zoche not only to burn the physical chametz, but burn the spiritual chametz, which is ego. And
explain more, what is the spiritual chametz?
Spiritual chametz is ego. Getting angry, being bal ga'ava, being full of yourself, vanity, and self-worship, and laziness. So
selfishness.
Yeah, selfishness and narcissism. When we burn that,
and or being a stingy.
And only then, exactly. Only then we become truly free, and we're living truly. We're living truly in messianic Mashiach times. Hashem, we're coming very close to the time where Hashem's going to free us from all the different Satan and Chametz. Amen. Ken Yiratzon.